Hello, everyone,
and welcome to the Whatever Podcast
with Jen
and Kevin
and
Abby. Wow!
Welcome, Abby Vaughn,
Thank
to
you.
the podcast.
I'm so honored to be here, truly.
This is gonna be so fun. So Abby is a friend of ours from college/church for Kirsten. And we've been hanging out with you a lot more recently. I know Kirsten sees you a lot, but I've been seeing you a lot more recently because of her wedding coming up in 11 days from today.
I love.
Next Saturday.
Crazy. Yeah, and so we were just brainstorming of people who we wanted to have on the podcast, and we were like, Abby would be a really fun guest. Yeah. So here we are. We're just going to talk all things about Abby's life, and she is married. Her husband is not here with us today, but we also know her husband Kirsten from college. So
you know him more from college than me.
than you.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Anyway, we're gonna just have fun talking to Abby today. So I guess is there anything you want to add to that? Is there anything you want to say? Okay.
I don't think so.
So I guess to start, do you want to just share a little bit about who you are, or the basic college, tell us a little bit about yourself. Icebreaker challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fun fact: this is my first ever podcast.
Honored.
Really? I've never done a podcast before. Oh. So crazy. Here we are, and I'm so happy that my first podcast ever is the Whatever Podcast.
Slay.
I'm so honored. They texted me and they were like, hey, do you want to come be on our podcast on Tuesday and then come spend the night? And I was like, yes, I would literally love to.
You said, what are we talking about? We said, you.
I was like, okay. Love that. Okay, but anyways, a little bit about me. Originally from Michigan. My dad is a worship pastor, so I was raised at the same church my whole life, which was a blessing. I love my church. I feel like I have a very unique pastor's kid story. I feel like a lot of pastor's kids have low-key kind of trauma from being a pastor's kid. Oh. But
honestly, some people do.
Yeah, I hear it there.
But some people, I've
been good
heard,
for the most part.
Yeah, I've heard some bad stories, but thankfully I have a great childhood and being a pastor's kid and everything. It was really cool. Let's see. I came down to Nashville for college. I went to a really tiny school for my first 2 years in Hendersonville. Nobody would ever know of it. There was 200 students on campus.
Yeah, continue. I'm just curious, how did you know about that school?
Well, both my parents went there. My uncle's a professor there.
Got
it was
the
school for the denomination that I grew up in. Whatever.
Okay, got it. I was like, how did you know about that tiny little school?
But I'm literally not kidding. 200 students on the entire campus.
That's crazy.
I thought
everybody's
the college
in
that we
everybody's
ended up
business.
going to was small. That's
it was crazy. Yeah.
Ooh.
I started off as an elementary education major. Whoa, I was gonna be a teacher.
Really? What subject? Or just a regular.
For elementary, it's you kind of hit all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you just teach them how to read and teach them how to add.
Aww.
Basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I actually could see that too.
I could see it, and then I got into 3 education classes, and I was like, I hate this. I was like, I think I'll be miserable for the rest of my life if I do this.
Better to find that out now, though.
Yeah. True. So, I decided to transfer schools and switch my major. So I switched to music and worship. There's a lot longer story behind all of this, but I'm just giving you the quick version.
Yeah.
Transferred to Tribeca where we went, and then switched my major to music and worship, and met the love of my life there. And got to travel and lead worship for the school, which was a dream come true, and learned a lot, grew a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but learned from them, so slay. And got married. Listen, one less than a week from today is our 1 year anniversary.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. We literally were talking about that today.
We were talking about
like,
it
I
today.
mean, Kirsten's anniversary is coming up.
I cannot believe it. It does not feel like a year. Actually, our the top of our wedding cake that you're like supposed to save for your anniversary is in your freezer right now.
Oh, wait, really?
Yes. I was like, why you got a whole cooler with you when you walked in here?
Wait, why'd you bring it here?
Well, it was at Carson's parents' house, but then they brought it. His dad brought it to me today in a cooler, and so I've been just like toting it
Yeah, what if
around.
I was like, yeah, sorry guys, I ate it. I was like, I don't know what that was.
Hey,
I
it's
bet
gluten
it's
and dairy free.
fire.
It is.
Yeah, his nana made
I'm
it.
like, can we have a bite of
It's
that? with
lemon
you?
blackberry. It's delicious.
Oh,
Mhm.
Nice.
I can't wait to eat that thing.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's funny though.
so yeah, I've been married for like almost a year now,
Wow.
and in the residency program at Cross Point, and that's been amazing. So, yeah.
Wow. It's so cool to hear, like, I don't know, I'm very fascinated with people's stories, and I think that's something that we're enjoying about this next season of we haven't even told you this. Our episodes aren't
No.
coming out yet. We're switching gears this season to be doing more like interview style and just talking
Very
to people
cool.
and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for that, and I feel like she is too, because it's just interesting hearing about people's lives and where they come from and whatnot. But it's so interesting. I've been talking about this with a couple of friends over the last couple of weeks, but just like the like butterfly effect of like even the small decision of like the Lord calling you out of like education and then you being like, I'm gonna go to this school, now has led you to like meeting your husband and like being at like working at a church and even like being on this podcast right now. It's like all those little decisions that you make along the way like so greatly affect your life.
Literally so much.
And it's so weird. I mean, we were kind of talking about that today too, just like how decisions do that, and it's cool.
Yeah, I think about that so often of like, if I hadn't decided to transfer and hadn't decided to like that one decision, literally the one decision to transfer schools, like redirected like the whole course of my life.
Yeah.
Literally
like,
everything.
I mean,
That's
everything.
so weird.
Like most of my like friends in my community group like changed my, you know, I'm at Carson obviously, doing music and worship, getting to Crosspoint because I was at another church beforehand and was leading worship there, loved it, like whatever.
I didn't know that.
And then the door kind of just like naturally closed for me to like continue leading worship there. And it actually was like really just a sign from the Lord, because I was praying through it. I was like, okay, God, like, you know, Carson and I had started dating, and I was like, okay, well, like we're going to different churches, we're serving at different churches. We started going to like the 5:30 at Crosspoint together so that we could have like some
That's how it starts.
the flirty 5:30.
Yep.
But it was like I was just praying through like, okay, like how do we navigate this, like, and then he just like made it really clear and opened the door for me to like start serving at Crosspoint, and then like being in the residency, and like literally like I think since I was really little I just didn't like really realize it, but I felt like I've always like wanted to like lead worship. And that's honestly why I was an elementary education major, because I didn't think I could do that vocationally and like make money. That wasn't my context, and so I just like didn't think that was possible. So I was like, well, if I'm a teacher, like I'll have every Sunday off, so I could just like volunteer or whatever. And so now it's like get to be living in a season and like literally doing the very thing that I had always dreamed about doing, but was kind of a lot of my life like just too scared to like commit and say yes to. It's like I feel like I'm so overwhelmed with gratitude like so often, because I'm like, I literally never could have imagined this. I couldn't have like made this like happen, you know what I mean? But it literally all came from that one like decision.
That is insane. So crazy. I like we could do a whole episode on that, like analyzing like decisions that you've made throughout your life that just literally just changed the course of your entire life. It's crazy. Okay, so what made you like? You said you were kind of scared to take that leap and whatnot. What was your first like obviously you decided to do music at Trevecca.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like shift like for you? Were you just like, okay, I'm gonna just try it, or was it like this aha moment of like, Lord is not gracing me to be in this season and I need to do something else, is the only other thing I know to do? Like, what was that like for you?
If I'm like completely honest, it was the worst time of my life.
Oh, no.
It was literally
You're like, why did you ask this question?
Please don't ask me this. No, I'm just kidding. In the moment, it was the worst time of my life. In hindsight, the Lord was working things out and was literally like going before me and paving a way when I just couldn't see it. But it was 2021. And so like we had all gone back to school, but it was still like masks and COVID and all the things. And so it was the time when we were like, did you guys like that Thanksgiving break, like you just like went home until you came back for January? Because you're just like, you go home for Thanksgiving, you come back for finals, and then you go home for Christmas.
Wait, this was
2021?
Yes.
I thought that was, maybe it was 2021. I thought it was 2020 for some reason. That
Or
2020.
maybe
I think it was 2020.
It was 2020. You're right. I'm so sorry. You're right.
I think it was 2020 because that was we didn't get like a fall break or anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we like, they were just sending us home at Thanksgiving, and then we weren't coming back until like, well, we literally had like a 2-month break, which was amazing. But so that whole semester of my sophomore year, I had just been feeling really unsettled and like, geez, I don't think I'm supposed to like be here right now. Like, I don't think this is the place for me. I feel like I'm supposed to go somewhere else, but I don't know where to go, kind of thing. I told people, I was like, I feel like Abraham. Like, I feel like the Lord just told me to go, but I don't know where to go.
Yeah, what am I doing?
That fall, so it was like November, the beginning of November, I got COVID, and I was quarantined in like a random room with my roommate because she also got COVID. And
been there. I was the one that gave it to her.
Love. And so that in and of itself just like sucked. But then I had also like some like a big like relationship like drama had just happened, so I was also like in the middle of that, and that sucked. And then while I was in quarantine, so literally stuck in Tennessee, and my family's all back in Michigan, I got a call from my dad one morning that my mom had a heart attack, and she was like 47 at the time.
What? I didn't know that.
46. She was
I
like
didn't
46
know that
either.
Yeah,
and so I mean, literally, like my mom's like, she's been healthy.
She's so
it's
healthy.
like the last thing I was expecting to hear, and I was like, God, like literally, what are you doing right now? I feel like my world is like flipping upside down. So I mean, obviously I was stuck. I couldn't get out of quarantine and go home. I had to wait until like break, and I went home, and she had just gotten back from the hospital. My brother had just had ACL surgery because he tore his ACL playing football, so he was like laid up in bed. And then my dad, it was Thanksgiving Day, and all three of them ended up getting COVID on Thanksgiving Day.
Are you serious?
And you were home,
and I was home. And I was the only one who like, I had just had it, so I was like immune or whatever. And so the Lord, you know what, I've never thought about this, but I think that the Lord was building my character and preparing me in that month literally to step into like a new course of life and like to like be a worship leader, because being a leader, being whatever, is like, you're not a true leader unless you're being a servant leader.
Yes.
And
can you say that one more time for the people that need to hear that?
You ain't being a leader unless you're being a servant.
Yes.
And in that season, my whole family was literally debilitated. Like my dad was like the sickest he's ever been. He literally told us afterwards that he thought he was gonna die. Like there was a couple times he thought he was gonna die.
That was like your experience with COVID.
Yeah, I had an
You thought you were gonna die?
I had an awful experience with COVID.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Like at least the first time it was pretty awful.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
that he was so sick, so he literally locked himself in my parents' bedroom, wouldn't let my mom go in there, like wouldn't let anything. My mom is recovering from a heart attack, is like super weak, and also has COVID, and my brother is laid up in bed with COVID and can't walk. I was literally this might be
like
TMI.
short service. Ding.
No, I would bring him all of his food. This is TMI, but he would like pee in like a gallon jug, and I would literally go dump it out.
Wow, sister of the year for real. You're like, you owe me your life after this.
Yeah.
But in that season, I was also like, so I was like taking care of my whole family, but then I was also like internally like having this crisis because I was like, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do with my life?
Because all that was still going on, like while you were dealing with all that.
Yeah, I was so unsettled with education. I was like, I literally think I'll be miserable for the rest of my life if I do this. And I feel like I need to be somewhere else, but I don't know where.
Had you told your family at that point, or was it like kept to yourself?
No, I had mentioned it to them. I probably hadn't talked about it in like great detail, but I had like talked to them about it, and they knew, you know, like, because during that time, like, I felt so honestly like forsaken by the Lord, because I was like, God, I feel like I'm trying to like seek you, and I'm trying to like ask you like what you want me to do, and I feel like you're just like where are you? I don't hear you, I don't feel you, I don't like literally anything. And so it felt so hard and so like sad, but literally all I was like, I don't know what else to do other than to like just continue to like be in the word and like and pray and meet with you in the mornings, because like I don't know what else to do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like it's working right now, but like what else am I supposed to do, you know? And I think it was it's just the goodness and the faithfulness of the Lord, but I think he honors like whenever you continue to like meet with him and like being faithful to have that time and being consistent in that, like even if it doesn't feel good in the moment, I think he honors that in the long run. And I think honestly that's all I can like chalk up like, you know, everything that ended up happening to is like the faithfulness of the Lord, and like him literally fulfilling like the desires that he put in my heart, like you know, as a little girl, that I didn't even like fully realize at the time. And so it was literally just day after day after day, like the hard work of just meeting with him even when I like wasn't hearing anything from him. And then I finally got to the point where I was like, I was looking into all other kinds of stuff, because I was like, I know I don't want to do elementary education, but I still wasn't sold on I can have a job at a church and be a worship leader. And so I was like, well, could I be a counselor? Can I work in HR? HR? Hello?
No.
Hello? No,
that's not Miss Abby.
You're sitting behind a computer all day long. I'm like,
that sounds terrible. So it was just like all these things, like, could I do this? Could I do this? And everything was just like, no, I think I'll be miserable if I do that. And so finally I just got to the point where I was like, I think I just have to say yes to like doing the thing that I actually want to do. You know what I mean? Like the thing that I actually feel like the Lord's calling me to do. And I did. My parents, like, at first they were just like, you know, we just want to make sure that you're like going to be able to make money, that you can like have insurance, that you can have all the things that good parents would like, you know, want to make sure that their kid has access to in their career. But I just told them, I remember so vividly, like I told them, I feel like I'll be walking in disobedience to the Lord if I don't like pursue this vocationally.
That's real.
Because at that point it was just so, like, I feel like the Lord just like made it really clear. He was like, girl,
your parents are like, what were you supposed to say to that? No, you can't do it. Like,
and I've told people before, I think one of the greatest gifts like in my life has been the way that my parents trusted my relationship with the Lord. When even if they had some doubts and reservations about it, when I told them like, listen, I've been meeting with the Lord every morning. I've been seeking him. I've been asking. I've been, you know, like trying to like ask him what he wants me to do and follow that. And this is what I feel like it is. Then they were just like, okay, like we, you know, like we trust you. We trust that you listen to the Lord and that he speaks to you, and that you like are able to discern that. And so literally one of the greatest gifts to me in my life has been the way that they trusted my relationship with the Lord in that, because it would have been so hard for me if they were like not on board.
Yeah.
And like, you know, expressed all these reservations and everything, and like if I had to like do that without their like support or without their blessing or without whatever, like that would have been incredibly hard. So that was like a really long answer.
No,
but,
I loved it.
No,
I was
that
like
was
on the
good.
edge of my seat. Well, and even back to the whole like butterfly effect thing, like the fact that your parents trusted your walk enough to support you in that, like now like they can look and see like, wow, like one, she really heard the Lord, but like seeing how your life has played out now, like I don't know, I just think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my gosh, even literally like this past Sunday, it was like an unexpected trip, but they were passing through town, and so they got to come to the first service at Dixon, and we were singing Same God and Great Is Thy Faithfulness, and then the blessing and goodness of God, and literally all of the songs are about just like the faithfulness of God and, you know, his goodness through generations. And I'm just like looking at my parents in the front row, just like crying because they're like, my dad was like, how beautiful of a thing is it to like for you to be like leading worship and like singing these songs about his faithfulness through generations. And, you know, like my dad is I think my dad's like the best worship leader ever. Like I just like
he's so sweet.
Yeah, he's the best. And
That's
I like
precious.
learned so much from him. And so to even be able to have that like generational, like, I mean, like it's almost like an inheritance, you know what I mean? And it's like more than anything, he even said this, it's like more he could leave me $1 million as like an inheritance. Like, well, I don't know if he actually could, but like I'm just saying like hypothetically. But that wouldn't even be as good as leaving an inheritance and a legacy of like faith in the Lord and like experiencing like the faithfulness of God. And like that's the most important thing. And so even just like for them to be able to like be there this past Sunday and like have that experience and
It's like a full circle moment.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool to hear that perspective for me, and you probably have a similar perspective to Abby in the sense that like you guys aren't at like your home churches anymore that you guys like grew up at and whatnot. So it is really special like when your families come into town and see that, because I'm still at like the church that like I've grown up going to. We went to a church before my parents planted this one. But it's like cool to hear that perspective, because it's like your parents don't get to see you do that all the time. And so like how I just like put myself in their shoes, and like that must be so, like they have to be so proud and like so just like blown away at just even thinking back to 2020. Like we did not know that this is where your life was gonna go, but like that's just, that is so sweet. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So then, do you have anything you want to add to that, or shall we keep trekking along?
I mean, I don't think so. Maybe the only thing that I would add is like, I do have a similar situation with Abby. Like, it is special for my parents to come in town, because I feel like when you're walking like in the blessing, it's so easy to forget like how big of a blessing it is. And like anytime my parents come in town, they're like blown away at like how much God has done and like how proud they are of me like every single time. And so I feel like I just sometimes forget. It's like I mean, like, this is something I've prayed for literally years. And like that we get to walk in that now is so sweet. So that's the only thing I would add. But I feel that, Abby. I was the same way. And
it's so sweet too, and I know this is something we all can relate on, the fact that we get to do ministry with our almost spouses and your spouse. Like the fact that you get to walk out, like that's a totally different like ball game.
Oh my gosh,
is
literally.
Like leading with your spouse, or like even like just at the time when it was just like a significant other. Like that is like, and you and I have talked about that before, of just how like surreal that is. And so
it's like the most special thing in the world.
It is. And it's honestly like one of the most, like, I think we shared this in the episode that like you interviewed Joe and I, but she had asked the question, like, how do you implement, like, or like keeping like the Lord at the center of your relationship? And Joe and I were talking about, like, yes, there's like praying together and there's reading together, but like leading together and serving together is like, it brings you so much closer to the Lord, and there's so much more accountability in your relationships, like with that. Like it is a whole other, it takes your relationship to a whole different level, but it's like, it's so much fun. And that was something that we had talked about with some of the old youth leaders over the youth group at our church before Joe and I took over with our 2 other friends. She the wife had like made a post and said something like she had never realized how much like accountability would come with just being a youth group leader, you know. Just like making sure a bunch of 12 to 18 year olds are just like, you know, taken care of or whatever. But she was saying that, like, if anything, like, it always made her and her husband, like, they had to be in unity with each other. Like, they had to, like, maintain that, like, constant, like, because if there's not unity there, like, oh, the kids can feel that 100%. Yeah. And there's, like, I don't think, like, the Lord would grace you to be able to, like, fake that or, like, you know, like, whatever. So that's a whole other thing. So what has that been like for you, like being able to lead with your husband and like even like you guys get to work together and you get to like work with him too, like that's so special that you guys get to actually like not just serve with your husbands but like work with them. That's, I don't know, that's not something I'm used to, so that's fun.
It is like truly like the biggest blessing, and it's like the favorite thing in my life. The crazy thing is, before Carson, no other guy that I dated was like musical. Really? Like at all. And I didn't like, I don't know, it wasn't like on my priority list, which I don't really know why, but I just like guess I was like, oh, I don't really care if they like,
you were gonna work in education, so like it didn't
I
really
was gonna
matter
be a teacher, so who cares?
But
yeah, like none of them were like musical, and yeah, I mean obviously they all like, you know, love the Lord and stuff, but after I started dating Carson, I was like, and then like literally the whole foundation of our relationship was built on, because like the first, like we met each other doing like PR and like traveling.
Yes, we have to get into that too. Yeah. Dang. Okay.
And like traveling and like, you know, you're not supposed to date, but we dated, whatever.
It happens.
Sorry, we're married now, so it's okay. But like having the whole foundation of our relationship really being like, even our friendship before we started dating, being founded on like leading worship together, I was like, bro, how could I ever like be with someone who wasn't like this passionate or like this, you know, this was their wheelhouse, you know, like I don't know how I could ever like do that. So and I will say, like, I think there's also a difference in, because like when we were dating and we led together, it was wonderful and you know, amazing and all the things. But then once we got married and we started leading, and we like, obviously we like kept leading together, it wasn't like anything new, but there's like just something like different that happens. Like it's just like you new level unlocked. Soon, yeah, it's just like you leveled up. Like you got a new level unlocked
because you're fully unified.
That and there's a that marriage mantle too, like there's a different, like there is a different shift, like in obviously your relationship and whatnot, but like spiritually, like you are one
in every way.
Oh my gosh, that's so I can't wait.
And this is like, okay, I don't know, I'm not trying to be weird or like TMI, but in the times when like physically like we've been unified, then when like whenever we lead soon after that, it's like it's even it's even like better, you know what I mean, because we're like do it again. We're like on the same page, and like we truly are experiencing like oneness and unity, so and like, and that overflow, like that's not just a physical thing, like it is a physical thing, but then it also overflows into, you know, like mentally and emotionally and then spiritually, and all of those things are so imperative
So
when
important,
you
yeah.
like not only for like being married and being in a relationship, but then like also leading together. And even like last week at the college worship night, we had like a worship in the warehouse night, and it was me and Carson, and then Kirsten and Ethan, and then one of our other friends, Kiko, and another friend, Tyler. And there's even just something in that, and we're all friends, we're all unified outside of that setting, like off the platform, and that totally transforms the way that we lead when we are on platform. So even just like in friendships and things like that, but yeah, I will say like the whole like getting to lead and work with like your husband, I was a little worried about like working together, because I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go from like nothing
you hear
to,
like horror stories too.
And it's like you go to like, okay, we live together, we work together, we like drive together, like we're gonna do everything together, and LOL, that is not how my life has turned out. We're like, not together most of the time, because of, you know, him touring and stuff, but it is like such a gift and such a blessing. Obviously there are things that's like, okay, you have to like be intentional about like not bringing work home sometimes, and like having space to process things and talk about things, but also like not, I don't know, not letting that like get in between, you know, in between you and like in between your relationship. So there are those things that like, okay, you have to like figure the balance of this out. But I would say it's like a much greater like benefit and like sweetness to like getting to work together and lead together on like such a consistent basis.
Yeah, that's so fun. There were a couple of things that you said during that I was like, I need to put a pin in that. When you were talking about the like the unity that comes like emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Like, I know we've talked about that so much about how important that is. Well, let me backtrack. We went on a beach trip with my parents one year. It was literally just,
I was just talking to your mom about that today.
Really?
Yes.
We my parents,
she told me that we should bring him on the podcast just to recap what he told us on the walk.
We should, honestly. My
like,
dad
just say exactly what you just said.
And I'll give a snippet here, but in that 30-minute walk we did, my dad dropped so much wisdom,
so much heat.
We were like,
I love it.
Broke up with our boyfriends. It was like,
yeah,
and that's the tea.
And that's the tea. No, you broke up with your boyfriend.
Yours came eventually.
It took me a while to grasp.
I said,
but she was like 2 months later was like, I'm done, like out.
Yep.
Anyway, he was talking about on this beach trip. On the beach trip, we're like walking down the beach or whatever, and I don't even know how we got on the topic of that with my dad, but like my dad's personality is just very like warm and welcoming, and so like we were just asking questions as you had just turned 21 and I was still 20 at that point. And so we're just, this guy's been married at that point 30 something years, so we're like, let's just pick his brain. And he starts talking to us about the importance of being like attracted to somebody physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because it's like without those three, like you can't have you can have like be attracted to somebody or compatibility. That's what it was, not attracted to. You have to be compatible in those ways. That's kind of woke too, though. Yeah. But it's like if you are, you know, compatible or attracted to somebody emotionally and physically, but not spiritually, obviously like that's going to be a huge gap in your relationship. Or if there's like spirituality and the emotional side, but you're not attracted to your person, like that's a big deal. Gonna be good. And he wasn't saying that to be like you have to be shallow, but it's like
that's still
that is important.
Yeah,
you gotta be attracted to your spouse, you know. You wanna be,
they can be a great person, but it's like if you're not attracted to them, people call it shallow.
Sometimes it's like good on paper, but there's just no chemistry. You gotta have chemistry.
So he was just like really like driving that point home with us, and we literally, I have a video of it. I was like, Dad, you need to say that again. And Kirsten and I were like, oh, that's good. So anyway, I just thought that was like, it was really cool, because I've I don't know if maybe you have, but I've not heard a lot of people like say those 3 things. I was like, dang, that's literally what my dad said. So you've got the wisdom of a man that's now married 40 years. So that's awesome.
I definitely do not, but
and then, yeah, I just think that's like awesome. Like you were talking about having, just the things that you and Carson have set in like place of like, you know, there is that temptation, I'm sure, to like bring work home, especially when you love your job that much and like what you do so much, even serving, like it, like, not that you can't take that home, but like you do have to be like mindful of like not letting that be everything you talk about.
I feel like ministry is a hard line. Like I feel like other jobs, not to discredit other jobs, but you can kind of just close your laptop and end the day. But it's like when at least even one of you is in ministry, let alone 2 people, it's like even Ethan and I have to be very careful of what we like, the extent of what we talk about outside of work, because it can easily become like your identity. And which there is some truth to that. Like we are called to serve, like that's who we are because that's who Jesus was, but like your relationship has to be more than you talking about work.
No, for sure. And it's hard too,
it's
because
a tight balance,
like almost talking about it outside of like work hours, like it shows you care too, especially if you're working with people, like it shows your genuine care for people. I mean, it's the same thing as like you think about therapists, like they want you to get better and like they care about you, but they have to draw that boundary of like pay past a certain time, you know. But that's something that my parents are pastors, so I also grew up a PK, and you grew up essentially a PK. I would consider it a PK. And that's something that my my dad and my brother actually have a podcast like for our church, and they said in one of their episodes, it was like basically things that like pastors want to say to their congregation, but like don't want to just be at the pulpit. And it was actually really funny. So plug the Eastgate podcast and go listen to it. But I think it was in that episode, it was like they broke down like, you know, it is kind of hard like on a Sunday morning when my parents or my brother and his wife are always like the last people out of the building, especially like when my brother's got 3 kids under the age of 5, the 4th one on the way, and the kids are screaming and like wanting to get home and get to their naps and like all this kind of stuff. And it's like they were basically saying like for us, like we love ministry, it's like what we're passionate about, what we're called to do, but like family's first. Like my spouse is first, my family, and then it's ministry. And if you have a problem with that, like
Can I drop a bomb that I heard a couple weeks ago? Ethan might have told you this, but one of the old campus pastors of Crosspoint is now the lead pastor at a church in South Carolina, and we were there for our resident retreat, and he like talked to us a couple of times, just kind of like some leadership training, whatever. He said, oh my gosh, I don't think I'll ever forget this. He said, if you're gonna cheat on the church or cheat on your spouse, cheat on the church.
Ooh, that's
as far as like with your time, like if you're gonna spend more time with your spouse than you're spending with, you know, with the ministry or with the church or whatever.
That's a word.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Suddenly I'm booking vacation.
Okay, bye. No, I'm just kidding. But and it is just like, it is a fine line and a hard balance, because the lines are blurred in ministry and especially in the residency right now, because it's like it really is all encompassing. It's like it's your housing, it's your job, it's your community, like it is everything kind of combined, so the lines are very blurred. But just being intentional about, like, I think even something as simple as like having hobbies that you do together outside of work, and like something that you can talk about like related to that, or something you can do actively outside of like the work, is so good. And I don't quite know that Carson and I have found like our like ordinary hobby type thing. Like obviously we love doing music together, whether it's outside or inside of the church, but we also just like take a lot of vacations together, where it's like just me and him, and we go like on an adventure and like do something.
Going on your cruise soon.
Going on a cruise. Yes. Praise God. Less than a month. Amen. So yeah, even just like you know, and I mean, you don't have to go on a cruise. You could literally like, you know, take a weekend and, you know, go hike or go find a cabin or, you know, whatever. Yeah. But just like having like times that you can like intentionally get away and like, hey, let's not talk about work right now. You know, let's talk about where's your heart? Like, how
all hearts clear?
All hearts clear. Yeah, like how are you? Like what are your dreams right now? What are you scared of right now? Wow. Like, you know, just because those things change. It's like I could know, you know, what Carson is scared of. You know, I could know what that was, you know, 5 months ago, but that might not be the same thing next month, you know?
That's true.
So
that's true. That's good. Do you have anything to add on to any of that?
No. I'm just taking it in. Still thinking about that word.
That it's good.
That's so true.
It's good. It's good. It's interesting too. Like Joe has such good like work boundaries, and like I'm still learning at how to like be better at boundaries for myself. Yeah, and like it's really hard. But like he is so good. Like when he's done with his work day, like. Because we both have jobs outside of ministry. So, like, we do ministry together, and then we have our, like, jobs separate from each other. Yeah. So, he's really good at, like, when he, like, clocks out for the day, like, work is off his mind. He doesn't take it home. Like, it's, like, done. Whereas, like, when I clock out, I'm, like, thinking about all the things I have to do for work tomorrow. And, like, all the things. And it's, like, I don't know how to shut that part of my brain off. Yeah. I'm trying to be better about it and just be, like... feel that.
Yeah, I think part of it, though, is having a fun hobby. Yeah. Eddie said something, I'm going to butcher it because I don't remember. I'm trying to think of exactly what he said. But essentially along the lines of, and this is more so for, I guess, like, if you're a creative, you do something for work that's more creative, which you do. Yeah. But for anybody that does something that's more of like working that side of your brain, it's always good to have a hobby that's more so working the other side of your brain. So like for him, he's obviously a creative, like doing singing and like all that stuff, and he was like, I literally like doing gardening just in my free time, just as like a way to like recalibrate. And like so like I have found that so real. Like you go to the gym and that fills you up, and that's like just completely
like made so much sense in my brain because Joe's work is all left brain and mine is all right brain. So when he comes home, he like wants to do music or wants to whatever. When I'm done with work, I'm like creative out. I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I want to shut my brain off.
I want a brain
so that honestly, I'm gonna be like, Joe,
it actually is helpful though, because it helps you like feel not burn out. Like that's why it's so hard for me to go home, which I guess you guys are kind of different because you guys do music even off the clock.
But special.
I'm kind of I'm in a season where I'm like, I do not want to do anything creative when I get home. I want to just go home and literally rot in bed and watch a show. Yes,
but see, that's
like,
the thing,
or do a puzzle or something.
Like I love doing music, and that's why like I love everything that I do with the worship team. But my like personal artist project is like non-existent.
Girl,
anymore.
mine went in the trash.
Yeah, because it's like, and I actually did because I work for my parents, and so we were talking about that, and I've started doing a little bit more like left brain, like admin stuff with my job, which has been so much fun, and I enjoy that so much. But it is that feeling of like, because I do creative stuff, like I'm thinking about content or designing a email of sorts, like trying to make graphics look pretty and whatnot. It's like the last thing I want to do is like sit and write a song. I'm like, I don't want to.
And you feel bad about it. You feel bad about it.
Like I'm not pursuing like something I love. I'm like, I have no brain power to do that at all. Yeah. So that was good.
But that was some good wisdom. I really like have taken to heart, because I'm like, dang, maybe I shouldn't beat myself up because I was doing creative things for 8 hours straight.
Wow, that literally just like unlocked something in my brain.
That's real.
That was good. That was good. I'm glad you said that. Okay, so we've talked a lot about like your work and creative stuff and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know if you don't want to get into this, don't have to, and we can just cut this out if you're like, no, but all of like everything that's happened with like your health journey, like the stuff that you've like walked through and whatnot. I know we've talked a lot about on the podcast, like things that Kirsten has walked through and your whole journey with that. It's been ups and downs, even through the podcast. There have been times where you're down in the dumps and times where you're like doing really well. So I know that's been a whole journey for you and something obviously you're still trying to figure out and whatnot. So if you are comfortable talking about that, maybe share a little bit about like just when did all of that start happening with you, like with your, it's an autoimmune disease, right? So like when did that start shifting in your body? Like what was that like for you?
Well, it was crazy because I mean my whole life like I was fine, you know, I was an athlete, I ate kind of whatever I wanted and it was fine, you know. And then it was really interesting, within a year my grandma, my mom, and I were all diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, like within the same year. Dang. And they were both diagnosed with Graves' disease, and then I was diagnosed with celiac. But it was this really weird thing. It was like my first semester at Trevecca, it was my second semester. Like early second semester, I started just like having all these weird stomach problems, and I was like, maybe I'm developing like a lactose intolerance or something.
It's that calf food. You're like, I can't eat the calf anymore.
It got me.
It got me too, bro.
Rib. But I was like, okay, so like I tried to cut out dairy, and then that didn't help. It just like shifted the problems. And so Carson's dad and sister have autoimmune disease as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have Hashimoto's, and so they've been on a gluten-free diet, not because allergy, but like it just helps with like the inflammation and everything in their body. So they've been gluten-free for a lot longer than I have, like I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years or something like that, something crazy like that. And so Carson was like, well, maybe you should try to cut out gluten, and I was like, no, don't tell me that. I was like,
bread is my favorite food.
I was like, what am I gonna eat? I'm literally not gonna be able to eat anything if I can't have gluten. It's amazing how much you find out how much food there is that's not gluten.
It is hard to think like that, because I think the same thing. I'm like, what would
you're
I
like,
eat
what
if I
literally
didn't have
what
bread?
would I eat? Well, yeah,
there's so many options now. It's
kind of crazy.
There are a lot more now.
There are so many options, but I definitely, like, at the beginning of it, I was like, okay, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But then I was just like, okay, I need to like fix whatever's happening. So I tried it and it helped. I ended up like going to a doctor, got an endoscopy, and they were like, yeah, there's some changes in your stomach that look like it could be celiac, but not like 100%. But you also have like the genetic autoimmune thing, so it's probably celiac. And I was like,
this is not helpful
okay,
at all.
Great, thanks. That's so good.
Helpful.
Yeah. And then I got like some more like blood testing and other things, and they were like basically same thing. Looks like some changes that could be celiac, but not like every marker. And
what does that mean? Like it could, like, how is it not just like it is celiac?
It's not hitting every marker.
Yeah, there's like certain markers that they look for.
Okay.
That will like indicate that you have it, and they're like, yeah, you have some, but not all of them. I don't know. So, but basically, like, it was basically like you have the genes for autoimmune, and you feel better when you don't eat gluten, so you probably have celiac. I was like, all right, great. And I think probably had like a food scarcity mindset at the beginning. I don't know, you probably felt the same way at first. I was like, I cannot eat anything.
No,
like,
I felt the same way.
I was like, there's nothing I can eat. And when I found like something that I could eat, I felt like I like tried to like eat a lot, so that, because I was like, it was almost like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able to eat is, even though that wasn't true.
Yeah.
It was just like, I think subconsciously.
You just don't know in the beginning.
Yeah. And you're like trying to figure out like what you can eat, what you can't eat. And then like, I remember one time I was eating like some kind of Asian food, and because I love Asian food, and Carson was like, Abby, you can't have soy sauce. And I was like, excuse me?
Oh,
and he was like, he was like, Abby, there's gluten in soy sauce. And I was like, you're literally lying to me right now.
Oh,
and so I Googled it because I didn't believe him, and he was right.
I don't understand why.
I don't know. I don't even know.
They put gluten in the most random crap these days.
But like hairspray.
Yeah.
Hello. Anyways, so I just, you know, as you're like figuring out more things that you can't eat, but you're also figuring out more things that you can eat, and it's like, okay. But it was definitely hard. And I mean, honestly, like, if I'm being completely honest, like, it's been, you know, like a little over 2 years now, but I still get like super discouraged a lot of times. Like last week or the week before, I got like cross-contaminated like several times in 1 week.
Oh my gosh.
And I just felt like I was like sick every day, and I was like I look pregnant, like I was like, I get so bloated, it's like so painful and so bad. But it happened like so many times in 1 week, and I was just like so exhausted, and I just like sat on my couch and cried and was like, I was like, God, like, I've been praying for healing for 2 years. I know that you're compassionate. I know that you see me. I know that you're sovereign, so you could just snap your finger and make it go away. But like, so if I'm adding all of these things up in my brain, it should equal healing and like ending my suffering, but that's not happening. So, and just like trying to like reconcile that in your brain is like hard tough sometimes. And then I felt guilty because I'm like, well, there's people out there who have it so much worse than me, so why am I even like upset about it or whatever?
You can't compare, like,
so I'm like, I still like struggle with it sometimes. Like, there's times when, you know, I'm doing okay and I'm doing good, and I'm like, okay, like, I can handle this, whatever. Because it is like, this is a chronic illness that there is no cure to, so it's just like a lifelong, like, you're just gonna live like this the rest of your life.
Much,
And so there's times when I'm like, feel like, okay, I think I can handle it, and then there's times that I'm like just a mess and a wreck, and I'm like, God, what are you doing? Like, but Zach told me, our residency pastor, his name is Zach, and he is like almost completely deaf, has been like hard of hearing for a long time, like started losing his hearing when he was like pretty young. And obviously, like, he's prayed for healing, and it hasn't come. And so we were talking about it a little bit, and I was like, I know that, like, you know, sometimes you don't get healed so that like it will glorify God, and like other people will like see, and like it'll be like a testament, like whatever. I'm like, but how is me having celiac bringing anyone to the Lord? Please tell me. Please tell me.
Please tell me how this is going to help the kingdom.
And he told me, he was like, I've discovered that it's not always about like other people. Like, sometimes it's about you. And it's about like, are you gonna be faithful, and are you going to continue to worship and continue to like walk in relationship with the Lord even through suffering? And even if you never experience healing on this side of heaven, are you still gonna like
a Job moment?
Well,
he got lots of blessings there.
He got hashtag bliss,
but Job vibes.
We made that joke in an episode earlier. Like, I was in my, you kept saying I was in my Job era or something. I was like, bro.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Oh, no.
Job era.
So, yeah, honestly, like, you know, it's still hard to walk through that and reconcile that. And there's ups and downs, and there's probably going to be ups and downs for probably the rest of my life, I guess. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you come back to the fact that God is good, and he is compassionate, and he is kind, and he does see, and it could be for, you know, it could be for my development too. It could be like, one huge thing is like, I've had to like shake off the thought of like I'm a burden, because like I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, and like I just struggled a lot. I just struggled a lot with feeling like I'm a burden. I can't ask for help. I can't like whatever. And after like 5 times of getting cross-contaminated at restaurants because I didn't speak up for myself and like ask them how they prepared the food, and like, because like at first I was like, I just won't ask, like it'll probably be fine. And then I just kept getting sick, and I was like, this is not worth it anymore. And so like learning to
Carson's like Abby,
literally. He would like say stuff for me sometimes because I would be like,
I'm like, stop.
But even like the Lord, like even just like teaching me through that of like, okay, like you're not a burden, like you can advocate for yourself, you can like ask for help and it's okay. Is like, that's for my development, that's for my sanctification. You know?
It is. Well, and it's growing you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like it reminds me of a scripture that Paul, or it was like, I guess it's a conversation Paul had with God, because I feel like I lost my train of thought of what I was going to say earlier, but hopefully this ties into what I'm just going to get into the scripture. But basically Paul was saying in this instance, like, he had some kind of thorn in his side. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it literally says in the scripture that God gave it to him so that he would not boast.
Yes.
And he said 3 times, I asked the Lord to take it away from me. And he literally said no. He said, my power is made perfect in your weakness.
Yes.
So I feel like
in 2 Corinthians, I feel like somewhere in there.
So I feel like stuff like that happens. Not that I'm implying that you were ever prideful, but like, I think as humans,
I'll be honest.
I just feel like as humans, when we don't go through stuff, it's like we can so easily become prideful. And so
you can.
I've had to deal with that, like, in multiple areas of my life, that I feel like I've asked God to take something away or like heal something in my life. And I think back to that story and I'm like, honestly, that's so real. Because like, where would I be without those things, you know?
That's so
those
good.
things that happen
when it, like, it's not saying that like the Lord is making those things happen to you for you to depend on him. That sounds like really weird and I don't believe that. But it does cause you to depend on him. Like, there is a level of like, you in those moments where you were getting cross-contaminated and you're like, Lord, please don't let this take me out for real. Like, it hurts, but I'm sure there's somewhat like of a level, because I don't have an autoimmune disease, but I'm sure there is a level of fear of like, what could this cause long term, or like what, like, there's, I'm sure the fear that comes with that, especially in the beginning. Like, I remember how scary that was for you in the beginning, especially having doctors look at you and be like, oh, nothing's wrong, and you're like, why am I in pain?
Something is definitely wrong.
But that's a good passage for that.
I think about that one often.
I thought you were gonna say the like, take the log out of your own eye before you do the thorn. I was like, where's Kirsten going with this?
No,
that's so good though. That's so true.
Well, and it's like learning when you were saying like feeling like a burden or whatnot, like I even just think about the people, I mean, I don't know everybody in your circle. I say this like I'm like, I know all of your friends and all this stuff. But seeing the people that I do know that are in your circle, the people who like think of you and care for you in that way without you having to ask, and being like taking that step for you and being like, hey, like, I don't know, like I even just remember like for her like bachelorette trip, it was like, it wasn't just, obviously I was like, I want to make sure Kirsten can eat, but it was like the majority of the people in your bridal party had some sort of like dietary restriction. And it was like, obviously I want Kirsten to be able to eat, but I was like, I want to make sure everybody's able to like participate in what we're doing and whatnot. And so it's like, even that has had to like grow you in the area of learning to like depend on people and like be like, hey, like I'm like, I can trust that like Carson's not gonna bring something into the house that's gonna like make me have a flare up or whatever.
No gluten in our house.
That's crazy. I didn't know that about his family. That's cool.
But I mean, that literally, what you're just talking about, that literally happened at Resident Retreat last weekend. We were at a Mexican restaurant. And
I didn't know that happened.
I was like gonna just like, I just ordered like, you know, chicken fajitas without the tortillas, and so I was like, I'll just like have chicken and veggies, whatever. And I was like, honestly, it's probably cross contaminated, but whatever, I'll just get sick, you know, was kind of like how I thought. But then it's hard when there's like a language barrier too, because like you like try to explain, but like then you just can't really communicate like what you need. And so I had like tried to ask our waitress and like talk about it, but she just like, she wasn't, you know, understanding what I was asking. And so I was like, it's fine, like I'll just order chicken fajitas, you know, kind of thing. And Kara and Emily and Zach were like, no, if you're gonna get sick, like, we're gonna go talk to somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were like, what did you order, and I was like, guys, no, it's fine, it's chill, like, don't worry about it, because we were with other people from like this other church too, and so I was like, it's fine. And they were like, no, we're going to ask, what did you order? And I was
That's
like,
good though.
and she went back and she like went inside. Emily like literally got up and went inside and talked to like a manager or somebody. And they were like, it's cross-contaminated because they cooked the chicken where they cooked the tortillas.
Yeah.
And so they were like, don't eat it. And I was like, well, thank you for checking.
Yeah.
So even like, it's like, it also opens the opportunity for like you to like feel loved and receive love from other people.
That's good.
Because even though like at first like I didn't want them to do that, I was like, no, just whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like at the end of the day, like that made me feel loved, that
really
they
thoughtful.
like care about me, like that. So yeah, that's another like,
that's so sweet,
silver lining, I guess.
And that is a very like humbling thing too, when you have to rely on other people. Especially when you have the mentality of like, either I'll do it myself or it'll be fine, I'll get over it. It's like the right people will know you well enough to be like, no, I'm gonna take care of you, and or I'll make sure that you're not sick and that you're feeling good or whatever. All the things. So that's very sweet.
Kind.
And it grows your relationships with people too. Like when you trust them. You can't have a relationship without trust.
True.
So
amen.
Period. Is there anything you'd like to add, Miss Kirsten, or ask for whatever's in your little brain?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Unless you have anything.
I don't think so.
Great.
Well, thanks for coming on the pod, Abby.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That was so much fun.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, so if you want to continue keeping up with Abby, well, I don't even know your Instagram or anything like that. You might have fans, Abby.
It's Abby Lynn Vaughn. Thank you.
Abby Lynn. You never know, though. I'm not saying we have a large audience by any means, but you never know who could see this and be like, I need to talk to her.
This is true.
If you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. I'm all ears. DM me.
Anyway, I'm so tired. I need to go to bed.
It's late, y'all.
All right. Thanks for watching or listening.
It's 11:11. Make a wish.
The wish is granted.
It's the way that y'all both got so quiet.
Oh my gosh. We've all day today, we've been like saying things in the same tone at the same time. So we did it during the podcast. That's why I like looked at you and laughed. I was like,
I know.
Hilarious. Anyway, thank you all for watching and listening. We will be back at another point with another episode whenever it comes out, because that's our schedule.
Because it's whatever.
That's right.
It's the Whatever Podcast. All right, love ya. Bye.